All right. Uh, just going to do a quick episode. I've kind of messed with the truck a little bit this weekend, trying to chase this, what I described kind of as like a grinding, binding sound. Um, so I found some interesting stuff. So, as you can see here, my drive shaft is up at 0.9 degrees for my front drive shaft, and my diff is sitting at 1.45 down. So my operating angle has changed for this angle, probably due to the new housing. I guess my old housing was pretty off. I am noticing that I do have a gap in here. Oh, let me turn on the light. Where the bushing, let me try to focus on that. So you see my bushing is actually sitting on the spacer that goes in the middle of the bushing that you actually attach this to. So I'm thinking that my old bushing may have been bad. That may have been the vibration issue. This thing may have been moving up and down, and that bushing was bad. So now that the bushing is good, it may have shifted my diff up on this side, which would indicate this angle being different. So I'm going to have to do some more calculations and some more adjusting. I may have to remod this cross member and see if I could lower this anymore. Luckily, I do have an extra cross member. It's actually right there. I don't know why this focus is not working. There we go. Yeah, I have another one right there. So I'm going to run some numbers, play with that one, and see if I could get that lower here and see if we can zero this out. I don't know how much I want to get into driveline angles, but there's plenty of calculators online to figure out. But basically, in order for your U-joints to operate, I should say correctly, so that you don't increase how they wear, your angles need to be correct. Now, I'm just going to say they need to be correct because it really varies on your drive shaft construction. So the way that my swap is going, the rear is a standard. I swear this focus is going to annoy me. My rear is a standard 2 U-joint at the trans, U-joint at the rear end. In that instance, your diff pinion angle, the angle between the pinion and the drive shaft, needs to match the angle between the drivetrain and the drive shaft. So basically, if you drew a straight line through your entire drivetrain, basically the crank line, which should line up with your output shaft line, like this straight line, that line needs to be parallel to your pinion line. So if you drew a line straight through your pinion gear, that line needs to be parallel to your output shaft of the transmission. There's a little bit of variation due to the Colorado having a leaf spring suspension. So since this channel is about a Colorado swap, in that instance, your pinion can be a little farther angled down so that when you put power into the rear and you get that axle wrap, it will actually straighten to where it's level when you put power down. That's kind of a nice little quick explanation about driveline angles, but that's how the rear would work. So in my instance, because I removed the blocks and like put devers on, this is all going to vary. Like every setup is going to be different. based on kind of how your suspension's set up, how your rear end is attached into the leaves, and like all that's gonna, make a difference on what that angle is gonna be. But that's something that you're gonna need to check before you kind of start driving. Otherwise, you're gonna have some issues. Mainly vibration issues. You'll get second order vibrations when your operating angles are off. They do make angle spacers. I think I've shown those on previous channels. I was running those before I removed the blocks and had to redo everything because it was about a degree off. But my setup now, I don't have anything in there in the leaf perch. There's no block. There's nothing. I'm basically spring onto rear end. But for my front, I have a double cardan to help clear the cross member. As you can see, I've got plenty of clearance there. Let's see if I can spin this a little. But you can see I have plenty of clearance. I don't hit the cross member. I'm not even close to it. But that was what was recommended to me. But with the double cardan, this angle can be, I believe, 45 degrees, maybe even more than that. But I'm not moving. I don't have a cycling suspension since we're IFS on the Colorado. So we have a fixed a fixed differential. So we did that setup to help clearance, but that means that this operating angle, get a little better comfort here. This operating angle needs to be 0. So whatever angle the drive shaft is what angle my diff has to be. That's the benefits of a double cardan. When you do that on a rear end, is you basically just face the pinion at the drive shaft and you're good. So as your suspension cycles, it should stay straight. If you have some long travel type setup, you won't get U-joint binding. But I'm thinking this might be what I'm feeling. The front drive shaft doesn't have power through it, but it still does spin a little bit while you're driving. So I'm thinking when I'm getting up to about 60, this might be spinning enough that it's, I just feel like this little bit of binding in this due to it not being at a very good angle. I think I just ran the numbers. I think the overall angle is about 2 degrees, which is way too much for a double cardan opposite end U-joint. And if you remember my last video, when I take this for a spin, this is super hot. So it's definitely getting some heat in it from that binding. So that's going to kind of be my next thing that I kind of tackle. But I'll keep you guys updated. I just wanted to kind of share that. But if you're going to be doing a swap, these angle finders are really nice to have, especially figuring out your driveline angles. But I'm going to get some good numbers and start playing with this in some software I have. And see how much I need to mod the other cross member. And we'll throw that on and give her a try and see if we get this last little kind of binding feeling to go away. And then we'll go from there. Still tuning, working with the tuner still. We're having a little bit of issue trying to get the idle good, but it's getting there. He may come down and we may do some driving around and see if we can get that figured out. But there's a couple things I'm going to check. He said that the O2s are giving some weird readings, but those that remember in one of my previous channels, or I'm sorry, my previous videos, my upstream O2s, I had some aftermarket kind of O'Reilly's. They were Walker brand, and they were cycling very odd, and the heaters were basically not working on them, causing some bad data. I put a new one in there, did the same exact thing with a brand new O2 sensor. So I had to switch to the GM Genuine, which I probably should have done from the get-go, but those were easily found locally. I have to order the GM Genuine. No one carries them locally. Even the dealer has to order them. So I got some GM Genuines in there, and they've been running fine ever since. Well, my downstreams, after cats, they're up here. Don't mind my crappy welds. Those are still Walker. So I don't know if we're getting bad data there and it's affecting some stuff in his tuning. But he said the last log I sent had some odd O2 readings. But he did not specify which O2s were getting the odd readings. So I'm going to double check with him after doing a log today, and we'll might be having to switch those to GM Genuine, and hopefully that will fix the little idle issues that we're having, and then we can continue on with tuning. But I just kind of wanted to talk about the angles mainly today. And I'm not sure if so you remember I put the 589 diff drop on here. I don't know if that kind of changed some things. Not entirely sure, but I've double checked. Everything's tight. Probably give it another once over just to double check, and then I'll redo my angles in case there was some movement. And then I'll start addressing that, and hopefully next video we'll be talking about how I have no more binding and we got nothing left but tuning to do. All right, I'll catch you guys on the next one.